to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Hi.
Hey.
I hope that you guys are surprised and delighted by our normal person guest, Kristen.
It's me.
It's so dumb. It's cheating. I know it's cheating. But
is it cheating? Because I'm also a normal person. I am an expert
you are that.
In everything else we talk about on the podcast. But when it comes to me, I'm just a normal person. So
let's not give yourself
count.
too much credit for being an expert on everything we talk about on the podcast. I don't know that that's accurate.
I am. We both are master level coaches. So we have far and exceeded our expert level in coaching. But in life, I'm still a normal person.
That's true. Well, define normal, but normal as in much like everyone else, whether we're weird or not. So, okay, a year ago, let's dial it on back. Okay, I got to set the stage for this conversation. Why are we doing this? Well, a year ago, actually, Kristen, you will be amazed because this is the kind of thing that amazes you. We recorded the episode I'm talking about literally a year ago today.
What?
Mm-hmm. It has been a year to the day.
Wow.
Nope. Yeah.
That's kind of
You want to know how I know that? Because it was
our
photo shoot. It was the day after our photo shoot. And yesterday was my grandma's birthday. Yesterday was the last day I saw, these 2 days was the last day I saw my grandma before she died, remember?
Yep.
And we went there, I saw her, and then we went to our photo shoot, and the next day we had our recording, and then we came home. And so, this is
the photo shoot from
exactly
hell. That actually turned out okay.
And it turned out okay. So we did talk about that at the beginning of that episode. So anyway, that episode came out in July of 2021. So, and this is going to come out almost a year to the day, July 2022. So we are genuinely doing a year check-in about the fact that a year ago, spoiler alert, but not, because we do want you to go back and listen to that episode. If you haven't, you can listen to this first. It's not that big of a deal. I'll give you the highlights. I'm going to give you like a 2-minute summary of what we talked about in that episode, but I think it would be really helpful for you to listen to it because what it's actually about, like for the most part, is how to balance two competing passion profiles.
Yep.
That's basically what it is. It's like almost like an expert interview conversation about how to balance two seemingly very disparate competing values or passion profiles. So a year ago, Kristen got a full-time job. And we got into why.
Mm-hmm.
And the long story short, it was an hour-long episode. The long story short was Kristen got into the fact that, yes, she is a combination, as am I, but Kristen has more thriver energy than me, of fire starter and thriver. We call it being a fire thriver. And her thriver had been feeling very neglected for a long time, and she'd tried many, many, many different things to remedy that. I listened to this yesterday. So that's how I know what we talked about, because I went and re-listened to it, which I know for a freaking fact you did not do.
I did not, no. But I also lived it a year ago, so I feel a little bit more familiar.
Sure, but like I did listen to it so that I would know what we were talking about.
I wouldn't have been surprised though if your memory was so sharp that you just remembered, because you have a weird memory for factoids like that, particularly podcast related factoids.
But it's getting worse the more episodes we have. Like the harder it's getting for me to remember them all, which is, there is a limit even to my capacity, right? So we talked about the fact that you'd for a long time been kind of struggling to try to live life as a fire starter without having any sort of thriver job or any sort of thriver source of income, even though we'd been making it and doing fine as fire thriver business owners. It's not like we were living in a box. It's the only reason I moved back with my parents, y'all, is because, and I'm not there anymore, right? But it's because my house flooded, not because I was poor. But it just wasn't working. And it was a really, really good conversation about how, like, it doesn't even matter if something looks like it should be working on the outside. If it doesn't feel like it's working, it's often because you're living your life, or, you know, you're trying to work in a way that doesn't align with how you're wired. And so it was a conversation about how you felt like this is what you needed in order to get back into alignment with how you're really wired. And so I said, we're at some point we will check in and we will see how it goes. And I said, I predict you're going to be overwhelmed. And you said, probably. And now we're going to check in about how that definitely was true. But here we are a year
later. As promised, we're checking in.
Yeah.
I think a year mark is a good check-in point, because it's been long enough that I've, you know, it's not just a couple months. I've gone through the learning curve. I've gone through the balancing act. And
can we pause though and remind people? And again, she did talk about this in the podcast, and now you can expound on what it's actually like. But you found the perfect thriver job. I'm telling you, I've never heard of a job that's like literally more suited for a thriver. And so for all of the thrivers out there who are like, I don't know if it's possible, Kristen's going to be able to blow your mind with some of the aspects of this job. And even the way you found it was just so chill. Like, the whole experience was has been mostly, minus a few little peaks and valleys, very chill. You found it without, again, go listen to the episode, but she didn't even apply for this job. Someone literally just recruited her because she'd applied to another job, and then the recruiter saw her apply to that job, and then they introduced her to this company, but she never even met the recruiter. The recruiter told the company about you, and the company reached out to you. You literally didn't do anything.
For a job title that I never ever would have even looked at. I would have been like, I don't know. I wouldn't have looked for it. I wouldn't have, even if I'd seen it, I don't think I would have thought to apply for it. It was just, it was completely just one of those like meant to be synchronous situations.
It just showed up on your doorstep. And so there's more proof, because we've had that happen. We've seen that happen with clients over and over again. Things can just find you. You don't have to necessarily work your ass off to make something happen. And the way you got this was proof of that. And then I think people are going to be really interested to hear how it's been going. So, do you want to actually tell people what you're doing? Because you did tell them a little bit before you started. So you told them, well, I'm going to be like designing, basically like digitizing their offerings and their courses and their processes. Like, that's what you thought you were going to be doing.
Yeah, that is what I thought I was going to be doing. It's not exactly what I'm doing.
Okay, so let's start there, because I have so many questions that I feel like people are going to have. I think it's very common for people to think that their job is going to be one thing and then it ends up being another. So what's the difference? Are you okay with the fact that there's been a difference?
Yeah, that is a good question. I thought I was... So, okay, let me back up. I'm called a product designer, which I would have thought was some techie, startup-y, like web design skills required kind of a job. That's not what this is. I'm not sure if they just called it something they didn't, like, I don't know if they knew what they were calling it, but anyway, that's not what it is.
That's a good point, though, is that people who write job descriptions often don't know what they're actually looking for, so they don't know what to call it. And so you might actually be more qualified for a job than you think you are, because the person writing it doesn't know what they're talking about.
Like, I would have thought I needed to go to one of those coding schools or something to be a product designer. That's not even close to what this is.
Maybe people who do know what they're doing when they write a product designer role, you would have to go and be because that is technically what normally a product designer does, but they just wrote a role and didn't know what to call it, and it just, it confused you.
I think if I tried to go at any point in the future and apply for a different product designer job, they'd be like, this is not, what are you doing? Like, this is what I did before. Anyway, so this is a consulting company who, as it turns out, the more I learn about them, the more they have so many coaching skills just built into their model, built into all of their teachings and their trainings. These people are not trained coaches, but they just instinctively bring so much of that in. So again, something I would never have really expected or looked for or, expected to receive, but it's very aligned in some ways with what I already care about. And they have a ton of content. I mean, a ton of content. You think we have a lot of content? These people have so much content. And they're not standardized in how all their different consultants use it, present it, how they deliver it to clients. So some people are using this tool, some people are using this other one, some people are, doing things in different ways. And you can't really scale a business when each consultant's kind of just doing the work the way that they think it makes sense. So I'm the person who they brought in to say, let's just get standard on all of our main offerings, all of our tools, all of our processes, and let's have somebody, and yes, I do some of digitizing it because so much more of what they do is just like most companies now, they had to go virtual in the pandemic, and they've pretty much stayed virtual after the fact. So some of their stuff doesn't really make sense. It was like printable worksheets, and they're like, that's not going to work anymore. We need something you can share over Zoom. So some of that I'm doing as well. But I'm fine with the fact, to be honest with you, because it's my Thriver job, that's fine. Because I just wanted to make sure that I was competent at it and it wasn't going to really stress me out with what I was doing or how much I was doing. And that's like, it's fine with me. In fact, I'm learning a lot of ways of getting more efficient with things that I think are going to be really helpful for us as we are scaling and growing our company. Because it's one thing when you have a company where we're the only coaches, right? We know the process. We know what we're doing. We're really good at it. If we ever had more people, I think we would want to be a little bit more clear about teaching them to do it in the same way. So the more I get good at how do you package things in a way that other people can take it and run with it and get the same effect with the client, the better it is for us too.
Okay, I think it would actually be worth, we didn't talk about this last time. So I think it would be worth going back and actually talking a little bit about the interview process, because you ended up with a job that was like a really good fit for your situation, which was kind of unique. Like, you weren't just looking for a job, you were looking for a job that you could do while also running a business, which means you weren't looking for a job that would have crazy hours or would ask way more than you were able to give. So like, how do you go into an interview like knowing, hey, is this like a chill job that I can like say is 40 hours a week, but actually do like 25 or something like that? Like, you can't do that. And so it's always a really common question that people have is like, how do I know if something is, how do I trust, know and trust that something is, as much as I can before I go into it, that something's actually going to be able to meet my needs and be a good fit. So what were some of the green flags?
Yeah. Good question. Well, before I could even recognize the green flags, I had to be really honest. So I know a lot of my clients who are thrivers, or maybe part thrivers, who are afraid to be honest in interviews because they think they have to be really passionate and peppy and excited and act like this is the thing that I love the most because that's what's going to get them the job. And I'm not going to say I wasn't, being enthusiastic. I think you should be enthusiastic in an interview if you actually are interested in the job. But when they asked me things like, why are you taking a job when you've been working for yourself for a while? Which I knew was going to be a question. That is a valid question for an interviewer, for someone like me. I highlighted the things that I essentially talked about being a thriver without using the word thriver because they wouldn't know what that was. So I said, there's not the level of stability or predictability in entrepreneurship as there is in working for someone else. And you have to wear, 67 hats and do all the jobs. And I would like to focus in my energy on, one main thing and get some expertise in a certain area. And so I explained what the thriver part of me was looking for. And they were cool with it. So that was already a green flag. Like, okay, they could have seen that as a yellow or red flag for me. Why is this girl who's been working for herself for years and years and years now coming to get a job?
Yeah, she's clearly a failure. Why would we hire her?
Right. Clearly she's failed, or clearly she's, there's something wrong. There's there's something weird behind that. And I just was straight up with them and they were like, okay, makes sense. Cool. I also asked questions like, I straight up said, so I've been working for myself for years, which means I've set my own schedule. I've gotten really good at managing my own energy on what I need to be working on. So is that something I'll be able to do here? Essentially, like, can I have flexible hours here? Because I got really used to working flexible hours and I get the job done. They were like, yeah, you're going to be completely virtual as long as you can be available for meetings when they need to, when we need to get together. Other than that, get the work done generally in your own time frame. So those are the kinds of things that I was not shy about saying or asking because they would have been deal breakers for me. If they were like, no, you have to, like, this is 8 to 5. That's it. Like, can't have any flexibility. You can't, you can't like have some of your own appointments in between. Like, that would have been a no-go for me. Mm-hmm. So I had to ask and be honest, and it didn't scare him off, clearly.
Did you ask any questions? I mean, I know you must have. Maybe you and I even talked about it, but I don't remember. Did you ask any questions about the workload? Because there's a difference between, okay, cool, I can set my own schedule, but then also, okay, crazy workload. Like,
okay, yeah, this is reminding me. So they had me, as part of the interview process, they had me look at one of their topics and put together my super, super high level plan for how I would productize it. They use the word productize as a verb. Okay. Which I don't hate. So, and they wanted me to give a general timeline. So I would take this and I would, here's like the general steps that I would do. And I would have the, minimum viable product ready in this amount of time. And I forget what I said exactly. I think it was like 6 weeks or something. And they were like, wow, okay, yeah, those steps make sense. Like, I like the way you're thinking about that. But, it's going to take a little while for you to really get to learn what we're all about and to understand our content. So, it might take you a bit longer than that. And that's totally fine. And so here I am like, I'm giving you a timeline on how long I think it's going to take. And you're asking me, no, please take longer. I'm like, that is a good sign for my ultimate workload, is that they're not going to be pushing me to get to the deliverable as soon as humanly possible. They're going to want me to slow down and do good work. So, green flag, again, for my thriver side.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, once again, you know me, I can't help it. I'm just like, what's the parallel between this and dating? And I'm just like, first of all, you have to get your deal breakers out there up front. Do not go on a date with a man or a woman. I don't care who they are. Like, don't go on a date with any person. And like, if there's something that is a huge deal breaker and you don't even know yet whether or not, like, if you want to have kids and you're going out on a blind date with someone, you should probably leave that date knowing whether or not they want to have kids. Because otherwise, if they don't, you don't go out on a second date. We have to ask that. We have to get really clear up front what is non-negotiable to me, and let me communicate that so that we don't waste any more of each other's time. And then
Let's sort quickly.
Yes. And then we look for, we're not like trying to paint red flags green. We're just observing. Are there red flags? Are there green flags? Are there maybe yellow flags? Which means I need more information to know one way or the other. And in this case, that was a green flag that you proposed a timeline and they said, take longer. Right?
Like, thank you. I will.
Right? Like that's a good indication that what they value quality over quantity, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
At one point as well, they shared their company values with me. And I was like, check, check, check all the way through. There was things on their company values list like one of them is if you have an issue, involve the person in the problem. Essentially, don't go tattletaling behind people's backs or don't go talking about problems instead around people, right?
Yeah.
Go involve the person so you can actually find solutions. I'm like, thank you. Because there's a lot of companies out there and I have been in them and I've heard of them where you never really know what's being said around you, behind your back. And so it makes you feel constantly unsettled, ungrounded. I was like, I like that. There was multiple values that I was like, I can get on board with that. And the fact that they started with that and actually talked me through them and didn't just have it on their website and then never actually think about it ever again. They wanted to emphasize that. And they do. They're really good at living by and working by their values. And that was clear from the beginning. And obviously I'm a values-driven person. So I was like, okay, another green flag.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other green flags that even if it wasn't before, even if it's just been like during that are like, oh wow, yeah, that really aligns with my values, or like this really is a thriver job and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, when I first started, I got my normal offer letter, and in that was however many paid time off days. I forget how many I even had getting started. And it was one of those things where you accrue them over time. Well, a couple months ago, one of the owners of the company announces on our company-wide meeting, we don't want you to have to keep tracking your time off. We think that's kind of dumb. And we don't want people to feel like I need to take a vacation, I need a break, but I haven't quite accrued the number of days that I need and stressing about that. And so we're going to implement a unlimited time off policy for everybody in the company. Just be smart about it. Ask for time off that you need. Don't track it. And whenever, if you need to get the work done, talk to your manager and we'll figure out a plan for how to get the work done or how to delegate it if you need a break. I was like, that is a thriver job right there. I just went from however many set PTO days to take time when you need it and don't just abuse it.
Get it done.
But they also specifically said, we recommend everyone take at least one 5-day stretch consecutively. Like essentially take a vacation, take a week-long vacation. We highly recommend that. Yeah. But there was people who were taking like one day here or like an extra, like we have 4th of July coming up. There were people who
legitimately weren't taking a vacation.
Yeah. And so the leadership was like, we want you to take a vacation. Highly recommend.
Okay. Well, I don't understand when people don't want to take vacations. I can't relate.
I don't understand. Me neither. I think it was more people feel like they can't. And they feel like there's too much work or they feel like they're going to inconvenience people. And leadership was like, no, we don't want you to feel like you're inconveniencing us. We'll figure it out. Take your vacation. So obviously that's a green flag for me. Unlimited PTO for everybody.
Okay. So I think we need to talk about, I want to talk about like, all right, is it what you expected in terms of how you feel about it? Like, did you achieve your ultimate aim that you set out a year ago or more?
A year ago, my thriver side was feeling very neglected.
Yes,
It
you
had
said
not
that in our last episode. I think you used
I
that
must
word.
have, because did I?
You must. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure you did. Yeah.
That sounds right, because that's how it was feeling. And it is feeling very satisfied now. The thriver part of me is like, here for this. The thriver part of me is like, I get the same paycheck every 2 weeks, like down to the cent. This is awesome. And like bonus money sometimes too, because it has bonuses built in. Like that is just like, it is incredibly happy, just like chilling, feet up, like living its best life as a thriver. Now my fire starter side's like not unhappy, but just a little antsy, which was expected,
crowded,
right?
Or something, a little bit.
Just a little crowded.
Yeah.
But after many, many years of my thriver side feeling like it was yelling at me and not getting heard, for a while, I'm okay with the slight tipping of the balance. But I do know at some point, the balance is not going to feel good anymore. And the fire starter part of me is going to get a little rebellious because that's what it does.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but like I can hear it starting to murmur. The fire starter side of me, it's murmuring. Some weeks more than others.
Okay. I mean, it's not really a tangent, but I will say that I think that you doing this had a direct impact, though, on a very fire starter thing that we're currently working on, right?
That's true.
You know, you got this. We talked about this in the episode a year ago. You got this job right around the time that I left my part-time gig at the coach training IPEC, the coach training school that Kristen and I went to, where Kristen actually had been doing a part-time gig with me too there, but she'd left like a year before I did. We also talked about that a little bit. And so it was great timing. And I said that to you last year. I was like, it's just kind of a Krachel thing, you know, like you were like, I need a job. And I was like, I hate it. Get me out of this job. I mean, there's no logical reason that I should have hated it. I was just like, I mean, I have more fire starter energy than you. And I was just suffocating. And it was really helpful. Like when I was going through the process of, I don't know, transitioning to buying my own place and like having that extra side income was helpful. But, I was so eager to get out, and it was prescient. I mean, not to make this about me, but I also said that in our last episode, and then I did make it about me. So like, you know, does anyone really change that much in a year? I don't think so. But like, okay, but this is about us. And I will say, I think it was super prescient that I quit that job, because I quit that job and like 6 weeks later, my life went insane. Like from like the beginning of July last year to then my place flooded in September. There's no way I could have had 2 jobs while the last 9 months of my life just unfolded. So the fact that you had gotten a job, and that meant that we weren't splitting things 50-50 anymore. Like I've taken on a lot more one-on-one clients than you have in the last year. And that's been super helpful.
Sheer capacity.
For me, right? Like
it balanced out exactly how it needed to.
Yeah. And
so we both got the impulse to make a big change at the same time. And it seemed like we were going in opposite directions, but actually it was very complementary. It was. Right when it needed to be.
And so over the last, and I'm sure at some point we'll talk more about this. Yeah, we will. Not quite yet, but in the last few months, we've started working with our friend Britt, who has been on the podcast actually a couple times before. She's been on it. She's interviewed us one time on it. I can link to the episodes we've had with Britt. We've been working with her to kind of like amp up the fire starter side of, fire starter side of business is kind of an oxymoron, but you know what I mean? Like we've been investing a ton of time and energy and money into, a particular funnel that we're creating. And it's all in the back end right now. There's nothing to see or experience yet. But I don't know that if you didn't have this, I don't know if you didn't have this job that then allowed, in a certain sense, like made it easier for me to just like focus on this. I don't, and then you're less stressed because you're focused, because like your thriver's not freaking out. I don't know. I feel like it actually has set us up to be more fire startery in now and in the future. So
yes, I 100% agree. I think for a couple of reasons, having my thriver side so satisfied contributed to me being willing to
having the energy.
Yes. So first of all, I think when my thriver side felt so neglected, asking myself to do more fire starter work would have just sent it into a tantrum. And that's kind of where I was at for a long time. It's like, wait, running a business already is so fire startery that now you want me to just try to expand and grow and scale it and do more of that? My thriver side's like, nope, we're already too out of balance. So once that side of me was like, oh, okay, I've got predictability, I've got stability, I've got some routine, like I can, okay, we can give the fire starter a little bit more now. Gave me the energy to be able to do what we've been doing. I also think taking away a little bit of freedom from the fire starter side of me made that part be like,
but I want that back.
Hold on, I want more of that. So how do I get more of that again? And so it kind of inspired the fire starter side and soothed the thriver side. And both elements were needed for me to be able to put in everything we've been putting in the last few months. And we'll still need to for the next little while. So yeah, I think that's partially why I feel my fire starter murmuring is because it's like, oh, I have ideas. Oh, we're in the middle of stuff. I see things are happening. Things are moving. But now I need more space to do that. Whereas before, when we were in maintenance mode in business for a long time, which we were, it would have been easier to balance a full-time job and running a business when business was kind of on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not currently on autopilot anymore. We are being very active and investing, like Rachel said, time, money, energy into growth. So that's probably where the itch is coming from.
But it's a good itch.
It is. It is a good itch. And also a lot of this is not ongoing. We're putting
like kind of one-time effort. Yeah.
Yeah, we're putting a big effort in for a longer term gain.
That's the hope anyway.
Yeah. Our business coach, Britt, marketing? I don't know what we call her.
She's basically our boss.
Our Brit. She's like, she just directs us, and it's awesome.
We basically
to have a boss
hired. No, I'm
in your
not
own
kidding.
Business.
We hired a boss because we are so bad at like making ourselves do anything that we have accomplished more in the last 3 months than we ever would have done on our own. I mean, if you'd given me 2 years, I wouldn't have done everything that we've done in the last 3 months, right? Like, that's not an exaggeration.
It's not an exaggeration.
Like if we'd ever
it's funny,
done
you'll
it,
hear us, you'll hear us messaging or voxing back and forth with Britt. Well, I was supposed to have this due today, but it might be tomorrow or might be the end of the week. Is that okay? And I have to laugh because I'm like, it's our business. Like, we should set the deadlines. But no, we should not set the deadlines.
No, she sets the deadlines.
She sets the deadline. But anyway, I brought her up because the motto she keeps telling us is work like a fire starter now so you can live like a thriver later. And that's what I keep repeating in my brain. Because it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do all of what we're doing right now anyway. It's a lot of work to do that and be doing a full-time job at the same time. But I'm working like a fire starter while making sure my thriver is not neglected so that I can really do the thriver thing full out one day. That's the dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then people are going to be like, well, wait, but then you're going to go back to doing the fire starter thing full out. how is that going to help your thriver? I'm like, no. Because our goal is to set up business in such a way that we're still coaching. Which is kind of like trading hours for dollars. Obviously, you got to be there. You got to coach someone. It's a live activity. But, we also have courses, and that's where we're more focusing on expanding. It's like, okay, well, a course is a one-time effort and it can provide you residual income. And so that's the thriver side of income. It's just you put in effort up front, and then hopefully your effort continues to pay off. It can indefinitely, exponentially, if you want it to. So that's the goal, is you can do business in a fire thriver way. It's just there's a lot of work up front that goes into trying to build something that can actually function well, which is why we have a boss now.
You got to set it up the right way. Yeah, that's why we hired our boss for sure. Queen Brit.
Really, and there are very few people I would allow to boss me around. Like very, very few. This is why I'm still single, because because there's a certain type of man I would allow to boss me around, but you gotta have every single quality that I'm looking for, or else it's gonna be a no from me.
And Britt has that.
Oh, Britt, I've told her multiple times, I am not ashamed to admit it. I'm like, if you were a man, I would marry you. You are my dream man, except you're a woman. And you're married. So
with a kid.
With a kid. So it's unfortunate for me. But okay, I think we need to talk about the major downside. I think there's one, there might be more than one, but we were not wrong about your overwhelm. When I predicted you're going to be overwhelmed and you were like, yeah, probably, that has been true. Not 100% consistently, not obviously, or else I think it would have ended up being a deal breaker. But we need to be honest about, okay, there has been a downside to trying to have a job and run a business.
Oh, yeah. And I'm already prone to overwhelm. I'm sure this is not the first I've said this. It will not be the first or the last time. I know this about myself. I have probably a lower threshold for overwhelm than some. And I have hit it many times. Granted, when I took a full-time job, I did not know we were going to be doing so much more on the business front, as just discussed. So I couldn't have anticipated that sometimes there'd be big deadlines for both jobs at once. And the couple of times that has happened has been rough, to say the least. I have to get really clear on what has to happen today and what can wait. Because I always have. And I know all of us do to some extent, but I just feel like lately I have had a to-do list that is impossible for a human to do in a day, but I have that every day. And so...
impossible for some humans to do in a day, you being one of them. I bet you there are some people who could crush... I don't know who they are or what.
I don't know who these people are. They must not have dogs, they must not cook, they must not shower, and they sleep 4 hours a day or something. I don't know.
They're the Rock. People are. They have a staff,
maybe. Right. Here you go. Maybe that's what I need. I need a staff so that I could actually get more done.
Yeah, well, then we would definitely get more done if we weren't the ones doing everything. Mm-hmm. Though we actually did hire a virtual assistant, and that was the smartest thing we've done in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I'm already I wish
we have a boss and an assistant. It's great.
Living the dream. I'm I already want 3 of her. But one is phenomenal already. So yeah, the overwhelm has been real. There's been some weeks where I'm this is awesome, totally easy to balance. There have been other weeks where I have been close to crying certain days because I was I can't. I'm sure I've cried.
I was about to say, come on, full on, definitely sobbed a couple times at least.
Yeah, and again, like I'm trying to just recognize this is the wave. Like this is when you're trying to balance multiple things that take a lot of your energy. Some days it's going to be out of balance. There's no way of juggling that perfectly without dropping the ball sometimes. And yeah, it's been ugly from time to time, but mostly it's been chill. Because like Rachel said, I got probably the best Thriver job I could have gotten. It's all remote. It's very flexible. It's very nice people. Very manageable work. I don't feel like it's out of my capacity by any means. So I couldn't ask for better in terms of having the right pieces to create the balance that I need, but doesn't mean it always lines up perfectly.
Okay, so what's your strategy? This is so dumb because I hate this word in conjunction with overwhelm, but like, what's your strategy for combating overwhelm, Kristen?
Do I have a strategy?
I know. I was like, that's why this is a dumb question because A, she doesn't have one. B, I don't think that's how we think about overwhelm. But that's what a normal podcast interviewer would probably ask. It's like, well, then how do you deal with your overwhelm? Like, how do you beat it back? Which I don't like beating or combating when it comes to overwhelm, by the way.
No, I'm not a fighter. But okay. Couple things. First, I go to my people. So I'll go to Rachel or I'll go to my husband or I'll go to somebody and be like, this is too much. And I'll just like vent it out. And usually they're very good at saying things like, yeah, you've been here before. Guess what? It's always fine. Which is helpful because it's true. I've been here many times before and it's always fine. It always ends up fine. Like nobody ends up dead. Nothing dire ends up happening. Like it's fine. One of the things Rachel always says that I need to hear often is there's no such thing as a coaching emergency or there's no such thing as a product designer emergency.
There's no such thing as a marketing emergency. Like we're not doing anything that can't be rescheduled or canceled if it must be, you know?
Yeah. So if I have to ask for a couple extra days for something, okay, I'll do it. Also, no, like even when I feel really overwhelmed and like it's all like if I feel like I'm dropping a lot of balls, usually nobody else is even really noticing. Like I'm still getting great feedback from work and I'm still showing up for all my clients. And the cool thing about coaching is I don't care how overwhelmed you were before you picked up the phone. Once you're there, you are fully there because you have to listen with like your whole brain and your whole body, to really be there for that person. Sometimes that's like the best meditation. My clients have no idea how good for me it is sometimes.
Yeah,
like they think I'm there
just
helping them, but they're helping me more than they know too. And that also reminds me that I need to take a break sometimes. It's the last thing I think I can do. It's the last thing I feel capable of doing. Like, well, I have 16 more things to do today and it's 3:00. How can I take a break? But I know when I get to that mentally scattered overwhelm headspace, I can't get much done anyway.
Yeah.
So I just sit there checking things, fretting about things, and not really putting focused effort in. So if I go take a quick walk, or if I get away from my screen for 15 minutes, I'll probably actually come back and get real work done.
3 to 3:30, fret.
Fret time.
3:30 to 3:45, panic. Like,
or
it's
my
not
favorite,
helpful.
Check things. I don't even know what I do. Just check things.
That is one of my, it's like a core memory of mine of like you years ago. I mean, this was like in, oh my gosh, probably 2015, something like that, 2016. You were just sitting there and we were working and you were externally expressing your overwhelm and like how you're just finding it hard to get things done. Now, this is before you got diagnosed with ADHD and got, and so in hindsight, things make more sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like, well, what are you doing? And you were like, you kind of like stared at the screen and then you stared at me and you were like, I'm just like checking things. I was like, what are you checking? I was like, what needs checking on? Like over and over again. But I think it's an anxiety thing. It's like,
it is.
It's like
it's
a
one
nervous,
of my signals
it's like
that
a
I'm feeling
nervous mother
overwhelmed.
hen who's like, let me go check on this. And then I'm going to go check on this chick. And then I'm going to go over here and check on this chick. And then and it's like, you're not actually doing anything. You're like fretting in motion. That's what checking is.
Yeah. Yes. I check email or I don't really check social media. Maybe I once did, but that's, I know what
You
a lot of
probably
people will
check
go
like
check social
our
media.
WordPress
Or I'll
comments
check,
or our
exactly.
stats or something like that. Like, why do you need to check those things? Like,
now I check like our project management tool, right? I'm just checking things. I'm not getting anything done. And so I've learned over the years, when I just start checking things, I'm overwhelmed. I need to like rein it in and focus on one thing.
I think it might also be like some kind of brain, like your brain's trying to get you to remember what you need to do. Because when you get overwhelmed, you're afraid you're going to forget everything that you need to do. So you feel like if you're constantly like doing a check on all of the things, somehow you're going to remember what is important, which is stupid
and I'm
because
afraid
you
I'm
have a
gonna drop
list
the
of
ball.
things you need to do. Like,
and that's one of the things I'm checking, right?
right? Like, why are we
then I'm
doing
like,
that?
but is it everything on the list? And is the most important things? And so when you're feeling overwhelmed, you feel sure you're missing something or that something's going to slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
And so checking things is trying to make sure nothing is about to implode and you missed it because you were thinking about too many things.
It's a survival
I think,
reflex or
it's
something.
Like, are we all okay? Did I miss anything important?
Right.
But you don't actually move forward.
It's like your brain is afraid you're going to be Catherine O'Hara on the plane going to France during Home Alone and like just be chill and then all of a sudden snap up and go, Kevin! Like that's what you're afraid is going to happen.
Yes.
And if you're checking, then you're not going to forget to leave your kid. You're not going to leave a kid home alone.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I used to trick myself into thinking that was productive. And now I see it as like my little flag in my head that says, oh, you're overwhelmed. Okay, let's rein it in. Let's pick a thing and just do the thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I know I don't love the word counterintuitive because I actually think that when we say counterintuitive, what we actually mean is it's just purely intuitive. Counterintuitive actually is what we're trying to say is counterlogical. It goes against what our logic assumes is true. So logically, we think if we just keep working, we'll get more done. Obviously, that's not true. And we've talked about this in our episode about like doing feminine energy. Like, how do you actually do feminine energy? We talked about this in the book club episode about effortless, where there is a diminishing return on productivity the longer you try to work and the more you feel overwhelmed and then you just try to push through it. You're making it worse. You're getting more overwhelmed. You're getting less productive. So to take a break, to say, I am not going to get all 16 of these things done today, and like the world is not going to end, actually makes you more productive later on or the next day.
Exactly. And I will say one real benefit of this last year is I have proven to myself that I can work a lot harder than I thought I could.
Yeah, you
like,
can work
I always
a lot.
kind of thought of myself as a little bit lazy.
You're
but
selectively
I think I was
lazy.
Out of balance.
Yeah.
I think it was more of a symptom of, I think I prefer to be lazy when possible. Let's be honest.
Oh, for sure. Agreed. I mean,
I'm
yes.
not one of those people who's like wishes they could spend more time working. And I have some of those friends. I know some of these people, they love working. That's not going to be me. But if I have a lot of work to get done, I can get it done. Whereas previously, I don't think I would have believed I had that capability. So I've proven to myself, like, I can get a lot done when I set my mind to it. And I no longer have any any self-perception of myself as lazy.
Mm-mm.
So there you go. Now, if I choose to be lazy, great. But I don't have to worry that I'm inherently just lazy and can't do the work when it needs to get done. Because I have disproved that hardcore this year.
Yeah. I think that's just like a good filter question for people in terms of passion profiles is like, when are you capable of actually getting the most done? And for a thriver, it's usually because I feel safe. Like I feel secure, I feel safe, I feel stable. Therefore, I have more energy to get things done. If I'm constantly worried about like when the other shoe might drop, I don't necessarily have the focus or the productivity or, the ability to like relax and get things done. For a side hustler, it's when I have variety. Like I'm actually going to get less done if I have less to do in a weird way. For a side hustler, I think they're more engaged when they have a variety of things they can bounce around from, and they actually give more energy to all of the things when they have more to do, to a point. I'm obviously right, and that's so counter logical because you would think, well, no, the more you give people, the less they're going to be able to do. And I'm like, no, to a point, a side hustler actually does better when they have a little bit more to do.
Yeah, I feel like I've been living like a side hustler.
Yeah.
But this is kind of an interesting distinction that's just coming to mind. Right now, if you looked at my work situation, full-time job, also doing our business at the same time. Kind of like full-time job and full-time business, to be honest.
Not to mention life, which is its own job, as we all know. But
exactly.
like dogs are their own job, as we know. Like
keeping a house relatively clean
and like yourself
done
fed and bathed.
And sometimes exercising.
Sure.
All of that.
Yeah.
Yep. I think people would look at that and say that's like that's a side hustler setup. And if the reason behind why I had structured my work the way I've done it was for the variety of it, like I would get bored with just one or the other, and I wanted to have every day look a little different and keep the novelty alive, then I think that would be spot on. That's not my impetus, though. I don't really care if I'm getting variety.
Mm-mm.
I need something that suits my thriver and something that excites my fire starter. And so for now, having separate things devoted to each one of my profiles works really well. And at some point, it very well may, we're trying to set things up so that ultimately business is set up to do both of those things. In which case, I'm not going to be interested in variety. I'm not going to be like, I'm just doing
but I
business.
miss having another job. No, you're going to be like, great, I can only focus on one thing again. That's great.
So that's what I guess I want to just emphasize that, because
from the
it's
outside,
not like certain structures are inherently set up for different profiles. It's more of like, why are you attracted to that? Are you attracted because of the values of your profile or your profile combo? Or maybe a different set. So like two people could be in the exact same job, but be attracted to it for very different reasons.
Yeah.
And it fits them. And that's why. So this works for me. I think I'd probably be balancing it better if I was a side hustler, although maybe not. Sometimes side hustlers can have issues with follow through and balance and all that too. So, it might be hard in different ways, but yeah, I'm not here for the variety or the novelty. That's not what lights me up.
It's it's about your intention.
Mm-hmm.
Your intention matters. So, okay. Anything else you want to share about this situation? Or, I feel like we're kind of wrapping up here.
Yeah.
I asked you everything I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, and I brought up everything that I had thought of ahead of time that I wanted to emphasize.
Okay.
I guess I mostly want to tell the other thrivers out there that it's okay to look for a thriver job. It's okay to ask for what you want in a thriver job.
Yeah.
If you are a fire thriver, which I know we have quite a few of them, I think like attracts like. So people are attracted to us because some of them see themselves in us. So if you struggle with that same balance, I'm not telling you this is the right answer for you, but I am telling you if part of you feels, this is really anyone who has two profiles at all, frankly. If one part of you is feeling kind of ignored and is yelling out for attention, then you might have to get creative in how you get that need met. And I remember years ago saying, I never want a full-time job ever again. I never want to work for anybody else ever again. And yet...
I'm still here saying that.
And yet my thriver side is like, are you kidding? This is awesome. People just tell you what to do and then they just pay you over and over and over again and they just give you the directions. So so you have to just kind of keep re-examining. Like I was sure I would never want that again. And then here I was wanting it. And I had to be willing to change my own mind and be creative. And I'm not saying this is the answer forever either. I think there might come a point at which we need a new version of balance between the two. Fine. It's not set it and forget it. I just trust that I'll know when the next version of balance is requiring something different from me.
Once again, I'm going to just keep saying it and probably until I die. If you're not working or living in a way that aligns with who you are and what your values are, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be drained. You're going to be expending 10 times the amount of energy just trying to maintain this setup that's not right for you. If you turn yourself around and you go with the current, you go with how you're actually wired, things get easier. There is way less effort you have to exert. And so doing that on the surface might look very illogical. It might make no sense to you, but it might feel right, which is how you know it is right. It doesn't necessarily make sense for Kristen to have a business for at that point, she'd been working full time for like 7 years as a business person to go back and get a job, but it felt like a relief in comparison to, this is so funny, it felt like a relief to do that more than it did to just have way more time to quote unquote work on your business. Like, that's what everyone would have said. They would have just said, well, pour all of that time and energy you're about to pour into a job into your business and it'll be fine. You didn't have any energy. You didn't have that excess energy to pour into it because you weren't getting refueled, because you were going against how you were wired. When you turned in the direction of how you were wired, you were able to refuel. And then now we are actually giving that time and energy and attention and money that we needed to give to business.
Yeah, it's not about how much time you have. It's about how much energy you have to give to whatever you need. And it's a good point. When I was exclusively focused on our business, I would have way more days when my energy was really low. Not because I didn't like what I was doing. I've always liked coaching. It's why it's my fire starter option, because it's the thing I'm really passionate about. But being in fire starter energy all day, every day, made me feel much more drained than trying to balance 2 jobs, which it's overwhelming sometimes, but my energy is pretty high every day. That's it. I hadn't
good
really
indication you're doing something
that,
right.
But
you know,
I have a lot more energy on any given day. Now I'm using a lot more energy too to get everything done. But
you also have
I
more to
couldn't
give.
have done all of this with the level of energy I had when half of me felt depleted.
When you had way more time.
Yeah, exactly. It's really not about the time, is what I've learned. You got to manage your energy first.
Yep. Okay, well.
There you go. Year update.
There you have it.
Can't believe it's been a year. That makes me feel a little bit weird, but
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot's happened in the last year, for sure, for sure. So I can and I can't at the same time. Like it was yesterday, but it was also 84 years ago. Okay, so I totally recommend you go back and listen if you haven't to the year ago episode, which it's called Special Episode Why Kristen Just Got a Job from July of 2021. I will link to that and multiple of the episodes that I have mentioned because I've mentioned quite a few of them in this conversation. And well, we'll be back next week with some kind of side chat. That's all I know.
We'll have figured it out by then.
Okay. All right. Thanks, normal person.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh, such a pleasure. Okay. Talk to you soon, I'm sure. Bye.